I would really encourage some of you to start some group discussions of the book. I would really encourage you to use this on the college campuses to begin some at-home Bible study discussion groups. And share the book. Okay? Share it with someone. So, given that context then, let's look at page 35. Is that where we'll begin? And I want to highlight some statements. For those of you who have your book and you're trying to use it along with me tonight, and I would encourage you to have your book next week. I'm at about middle of the page. The weaker the character of one partner, the greater chance the other partner will be hurt. Now, I want you to hear that statement. The weaker the character of one partner, the greater the chance the other partner will be hurt. Tell me why that's true. What is the opposite of character? And character reflects maturity. So what's the opposite of maturity? Immaturity. And one of the primary characteristics of immaturity would be the lack of character. Yeah. That's good, Justin. Would be selfishness. Absolutely, selfishness. So then, to the degree that a person is inclined towards selfishness, to that degree, they're more likely to hurt you. True or false? Okay, so nail that down. That's why character is one of the reasons why character is such an important issue. The stronger the character, the greater the capacity of the partner has to extend himself or herself on behalf of the mate or on behalf of others. Physical attraction and chemistry are important, but they are the least important dimensions of a relationship. You're probably arguing that point in your head right now. Are you? Yeah, see? He's arguing, he's honest. He's arguing that point. And that's understandable. However, I will stand by that statement, and I hope you'll begin to see why as we move through this. Too often, today in America, we base one of life's most important decisions, who we're going to date or who we're going to marry, on the least important criteria: physical attraction or chemistry. Listen to this. There will be no long-term romance. There will be no long-term passion without strong character, or at least growing, maturing character. Why? Because the weaker the character of the persons, the more they're self-focused, self-centered, self-oriented, and the more the other is going to be hurt. And you tell me, what does that do for romance and passion in the bedroom? Zilch. None. Chemistry without character is short-lived passion. In our society, we have resorted to sexualizing everything, placing little emphasis on character. The net result is a high divorce rate, broken homes, broken dreams, children born out of wedlock, and children living in unhappy homes. Now, for those of you who have your book, go to page 92. And this is kind of a funny scenario of the immaturity that sometimes surrounds marriage. You ready? And Russell Dix, he wrote this. He said, assuming that sexual expression is irresistible, like a flood, many couples inevitably find themselves standing before a minister to be married. Minister says, do you take this woman with all her immaturity, self-centeredness, nagging, tears, and tension to be your wife forever? The dumb ox, temporarily hypnotized by the prospect of being able to sleep with her every night, mumbles, I do. Then the minister asks the starry-eyed bride, who is all of 18, do you take this man with all of his lust, moods, indifference, immaturity, and lack of discipline to be your husband forever? And she thinks that forever means all of next week, because she has never experienced 1 month of tediousness, responsibility, or denial of her wishes. So she chirps, "I do," in the thought that she has become a woman. Then the patient minister parents, "By the authority committed unto me as a minister of Christ, I pronounce you man and wife." As he does, he prays a silent prayer for forgiveness, for he knows that he lies. They are not now husband and wife. What does being husband and wife mean? You become one. See, look, this is a very important distinction. When you say "I do" at the altar, you are not at that time husband and wife. You're not one. You have set the commitment in place so that you might have the best possibility of becoming one. They are not now husband and wife, and he knows that few of them will ever be. They are now legally permitted to breed, fuss, bully, spend each other's money, and be held responsible for each other's bills. It is now legal for them to destroy each other so long as they don't do it with a gun or a club. And the minister goes home wondering if there isn't a more honest way to make a living. You know that statement, the legal right to destroy one another? That's what happens in bad marriages. A husband and a wife systematically, over time, destroy one another's greatest hopes and largest dreams. And they break their heart. You expressed to me last week, that's one of your primary concerns. How can I find some assurance in a reasonable expectation to marry and to have the possibility of a lasting, fulfilling, growing relationship with my spouse? And I want to say to you, unequivocally, look for character. If you miss that, you've missed the boat. And so then, that brings us to the question, well, how do you know a person's character? And that's a very good question. Glad you asked it, Jose. And here's the first answer. We look at the peers and friends of the persons that's around the one that we're interested in. I've said this for a long time. It continues to be true. If you look at the friends of the person that you're interested in, if you know the last 5 books they have read, if you know the last 10 movies they have seen, you know a lot about the character if you know what to look for. If you're not looking, or if you don't know what to look for, that information is not going to tell you anything at all. If you're looking and you know what to look for, that's going to tell you some information that might save your heart from being broken. That's one way. Some of you have heard me say, you want to know what your future looks like? Look at the people around you. I mean, your people around you, your circle of folks. That's what your future looks like. If you want to change your future, you're first going to have to change yourself, and then you're going to have to change that circle of influence around you to look like the future that you want. I've said for a number of years, and this is what's been helpful to me in my personal life. I try to have 4 types of relationships around me. One is someone that I can minister to. There's no reason for me to expect anything whatsoever from that person. They probably can't provide it. It's just someone that I can make a contribution to their lives. Then the second person is someone around me that I would consider a peer. There's good give and take. There can be good conversations, helpful, nurturing conversations. The third type would be someone that I would consider just ahead of me in their abilities, in their skills, in their experiences, in their maturity, so that I'm constantly learning from that person. If I'm doing nothing but observing that person, they're helping me. And then the fourth is someone in my life that is so far ahead of me that just to be around them is intimidating to me. Now, we tend to avoid those people, don't we? Don't we? Why? Because we're uncomfortable around them. We feel inadequate around them. We feel smaller than we want to feel. Now, there's probably no reason to feel that way at all, but we do, and so we tend to avoid them. I'm saying to you, if you intentionally find those persons, put them in your life, stay in tune with them, they will be of immeasurable help to you. And they will help build your own character, and they'll help you to find and see the character of other persons in your life. Now, here's a second way. Observe the person under pressure. We're answering the question, how can you tell a person's character? And I'm suggesting to you, observe the person under pressure. Why? Here's the deal. When we have an interest and attraction to someone, and if we've moved into dating, you tell me if I'm wrong. On those dates, the time that we spend with them, we're trying to create the least stressful situation possible. Is that true or false? I mean, we're going to have a good time. Stress out. Fun in. That's the experience of the newer relationship, in the beginning of the relationship, of the dating relationship in particular. But I want to tell you something. Building a life, a family, a career is full of hard core challenges. Doesn't mean the fun has to be gone. It means somebody's going to have to grow up and deal with the challenges that's coming in a relationship. Every time a challenge comes into our life and we embrace it for the opportunity of growth and change and contribution, we become more. When we turn away from it, we become less. In life, we're continually in the process of becoming more or becoming less. We do not stay the same. Do you believe that? We don't stay the same. There's some who think that there's a plateau. You stay there. If there is such a thing, you stay there about that long. You're moving forward, you're moving backward, and I can promise you, whether or not you're moving forward or backward, it's going to have a whole lot to do with the person, the most significant persons in your life. And so if you want to know character, you try to observe the person in the more stressful situations. Because, you know why? The real person is going to come out in the stressful situations. Third, try to know who their parents are. Why would you want to know? Now we've kind of moved from, okay, we'll hang out Friday night, to a semi-serious relationship at least. Why would you want to know the parents of that person you're interested in and thinking about tightening your relationship with?
See how the parents act.
Pardon me?
See how the parents act.
Why would that be important?
Because that's a reflection of who they learn from.
That's right. And more often than not, it's how they're going to act in the home as well. That's right. See, you don't marry a person. I know most people say you do, but you don't only marry the person. You marry the family. You marry the culture of that family, the values of that family, the priorities of that family, the behavioral patterns of that family. So if you know something about the family, you'll know something about the character of that person and what to expect from that person. And I'd say this to you, for those of you who are in a relationship and anticipating marriage already, You don't go to bed with only your spouse. You go to bed with at least 5 people. Who are they? You understand I'm speaking metaphorically here. Don't want to give the wrong impression. Who would they be? Okay, the spouse's parents and your parents and your spouse. Now, no kidding. No kidding. That's who you go to bed with. And you see, part of what marriage means is that over time you sort that out and you discover who you are and who your spouse is, and you develop a uniqueness in your relationship. But that is developed over time. And hear me, if you don't understand that when you're married, that you're going to bed more than with your spouse, you're going to have some problems. You're going to have some issues in the bedroom that will be very, very difficult to handle. Okay, so these are the ways that we can determine character. Those 4 things answers at least half those questions, half of those 24 questions that we talked about. Now, I want to say just a word. How much time do I have? Gracious. Okay, I want to say just a word about our own sense of security. Maybe page 44 is where we can pick up there. Do you think that it has anything to do with the quality of a relationship as to one's own sense of security? You do or you don't? You do? Why would you think that? Why would you think that your own sense of self-security would have anything to do with the quality of a relationship? Okay, that question is for the A students. Yes?
Because if you're not secure in yourself and who you are, how is she supposed to know she's safe with you?
Say that again?
If you're not secure in who you are or who you're going to be, how is she going to feel safe with you?
Okay, that's legitimate. We do find security in the other person, in our sense of the other person's being secure themselves. Would you agree with that? All right, that's good enough. Here's a husband, or even in a dating relationship, or even in a friendship. Here's a guy who says, you know, your hair is just beautiful. And it reflects the beauty of your eyes. And the girl says, oh, no, it doesn't. And then the guy says, you calling me a liar? No. Are you getting my point? She can't accept a compliment. Now, transfer that into marriage. And a husband who is trying to affirm his wife, or vice versa, and they can't accept a compliment. You can't encourage them. You can't build them up. Why? Because you haven't tried? Because you don't have the strength to give an affirmation? No, because the person can't receive it. And so, on page 44, I begin discussing that people who are secure about themselves are not needy persons. You've heard the phrase, he is or she is high maintenance. That generally refers to persons who don't have a lot of security, self-security, self-confidence. People who are secure about themselves are typically more giving persons and more considerate persons, more affirming persons. Would you buy that? See, if I know who I am, if I'm secure in who I am, I have the strength to affirm you. If I can't affirm myself, I am not going to be affirming you. Why would that be true? Why? Because if I affirm you in my insecurity, that makes me less than you. So I'm not going to do it. That make sense? For secure persons, there's a higher level of maturity, and self-security brings influence to bear, positive influence to family, friends, and others. Being secure in ourselves also enables us to accept and appreciate a compliment. And then finally, if we are secure within, we can accept compliments when they come, but we are not dependent upon them. That's another very important point. It is so easy for an insecure person to become dependent upon affirmation. And if you don't get that expected affirmation, I mean, it makes you have a bad hair day and more. You know what I'm saying? And so this matter of personal growth toward maturity is absolutely critical. Let me tell you something. Before you ever decide the criteria for the person that you want to spend a lifelong relationship with, you decide what the criteria is for who you want to become yourself. Yes. Before you set the criteria of who you want to spend your life with, you set the criteria for yourself of who you want to become. Now, why is that more important? For all the reasons we've just talked about. Character is an issue first for ourselves, not for the other persons. We have to address it in ourselves before anyone else. I was talking with our staff the other day, and one of the comments I made was, look, when it comes to leadership and when it comes to things not going as we might want them to or expect them to, we first have to look at our own leadership before we look at others' leadership. Okay, now, let's go to page 91 and deal with this. This chapter has a lot to say about dating. It's entitled Before You Say I Do. And this kind of brings us back in the circle around to character. Now, there's a lot in this book between those two pages, where we started and where we are now. But this kind of brings us full circle back to this question of character and how you can decide if this person is the kind of person that you can trust with your dreams. Here's question number one. Does he or she have an authentic relationship with Christ? Now, so much of this we don't have time to discuss, so I'm going to tell you. The Bible teaches that the Christian is not to be married to the unbeliever. Now, if you start there, you started in quicksand. And you may get out, but there's no guarantees. Because the believer and the unbeliever, they have different world views. They have different values, and thus they have different priorities. Now, some say, well, is it okay just to date an unbeliever as a believer? Say, I think twice about that. If so, there needs to be a particular reason. Let me tell you why. Because sometimes that casual relationship becomes very serious a lot quicker and unexpectedly. And now you ended up facing a question that is a definitive question for your marriage and for your life. I think there's a lot of risk involved with that. How can you tell then if a person has a serious relationship with Christ? Any suggestions there? Let me tell you two easy ways. And they're listed right there on page 96. One, look at the person's priorities. Now, it doesn't matter how much they say, I love Jesus. Their priorities will tell you the truth. And the second thing is look at their friends. That will tell you the truth as well. Because the friends determine behavior patterns. And behavior patterns goes back to values. Values go back to one's faith. Question number 2. What is the person's understanding of biblical money management? You're saying, Pastor, are you crazy? Why do I want to be discussing money management in our relationship? Because it's just going to be at the center of your whole life and family, that's all. One of the top 3 reasons for divorce? Finances. But now, let me tell you what I have learned over the years. A person who has the understanding and the discipline of biblical money management has gotten other things in his or her life in order as well. You can just about bank on it. Okay. 4th question. How does he treat his mother? Why, gals, would you want to know how he treats his mother? That's the way he's going to treat you. Yeah. Men often treat their wives as they treat their mother. Sometimes they expect to be treated as their mothers treat them. Women frequently respond to their husbands as they respond to their fathers. Observing the dynamics of your dating partner's family is very instructive. Question 5. What is his or her response to being hurt or offended? Oh, this carries over in all relationships, doesn't it? The Bible teaches that lack of maturity ends right here. Insult for insult. Insult for insult means destruction in a relationship. It means no growth. It means pain. So the question of how this person responds to being offended or hurt becomes a critical question. Well then, how would you think that a person should deal with hurt that you would want to trust with your life and with your dreams? Suggestions? Maybe they could say, I was wrong. Some folks have a real difficulty with that. Maybe they could understand what a genuine apology is and apologize. Maybe they could even ask for help, especially from the person who's hurt them or offended them. You see, if you have a person who has the ability to say, I was wrong and I apologize and help me with this, let's look at how then you have somewhere to go. If you don't have that kind of person, then you're in a cul-de-sac and you really have nowhere to go but in circles until you've destroyed one another. Question 6. Does he or she hold a biblical view of family? It's important to know if a potential spouse holds this conviction because you can expect, and you won't be disappointed most of the time. You can expect they will have the same vision for family that they grew up in. And if that vision is a healthy one and a positive one, wonderful. If it's not, if you're going to commit your life to that person, you're going to have to work out that vision and work it out pretty early on in order to have the kind of family that you want. 7, do both partners agree about lack of sexual involvement before marriage? It's interesting that in this book of Solomon, which this book is an interpretation and application of the book of Solomon, Solomon says, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Now, in the context, this admonition is the first of 3 warnings in the Song of Solomon about sexual involvement before marriage. Now, I want you to hear me say this. You can mess up your whole life. You can take baggage into the marriage that may never be resolved. But even before you get there, let me tell you the central problem. It will confuse your relationship. Remember I told you last week, do all your thinking before you fall in love? Better do all your thinking before you have a sexual relationship. It confuses things if it's out of order, out of context. And it will become much more driven by emotion than by love. And to say nothing about detracting from the beauty of what marriage is meant to be. Really, the sexuality question is a faith question. It's a character question. It's a purpose question. Are you with me? It's an honor question. It's at the core of our lives and our relationships. And you don't want to be deceived and thinking that you'll have your hand full when your hand is left empty. So, those are the questions that really I think are center to character and the purpose of dating. And if you apply these principles to almost any question you have, they will provide for you wisdom. Wisdom is the opposite of stupid. They will give you guidance. They will help you make good, healthy, positive choices that you can then enjoy your relationships, and you can build the kind of life that you want and that God wants for you.